What's going on, everyone? So today we've got another update from Karabast. They have been doing these like once a month or anytime there's been some big update. And since I am like one of the only creators that actually covers this stuff because everyone else doesn't want to get disassociated from FFG, I figured, well, let's dive into it, because not only that, but also a ton of you responded so fondly with how important it was to have these online access to Star Wars Unlimited. And so, as someone who enjoys Karabast themselves, I figured I'd give them a little bit of the time of day to go over this update and actually share some experiences with you all and some expectations for when this update fully launches, as well as a little bit of an update for new tournaments as of today, if you want to check them out before PQ start tomorrow in a bunch of different areas as far as I remember. But before that, big thank you to my patrons, and also I have a TCG player link in the description down below. Let's dive into this update today, in which they basically talk about their progress on the brand new UI, basically engine, and the entire basically new way that we're going to be playing Karabast. According to them, they made significant progress on the new engine. About 90% of cards across all three sets are implementable, and we're working hard to support the remaining 10%. I imagine this is more niche scenarios, a little bit more hard to code things. We're polishing the UIs to get as close as possible to the mockups previously shared, and we're also optimizing the board to look great on all screen sizes, including mobile. For those of you that play Karabast on mobile, it can be a little bit tricky sometimes. I have gotten in like a couple games. I usually stick to the PC, but that's a huge change. For those of you that didn't see the previous video or weren't here, this back in November and a little bit in December, well, we had this image shared with us, which was the brand new interface / engine for Karabast. Looks amazing, looks a lot more clean, looks a lot less cluttered, in my opinion, and ideally will be easier to actually implement any new set, is what they said. And so that means when set 4 comes and we start seeing spoilers, it's very possible that they'll be able to actually go ahead and take all those new cards and easily get them into the new Karabast engine, which is going to be very important because with set 3, actually took a decent amount of time to actually be able to play with these cards, which is why I was relegated to Tabletop Simulator during that time. Now, at that time, they were also working on their brand new engine, which also may kind of go hand in hand with taking a little bit of extra time. Now, also during this time, if you look back in November, they didn't specifically tell us how far we were in, but as of December, between November and December, they've implemented 70% of sets 1 and 2, another 20% to be coded, as well as starting work on set 3. So between this update in December and update today, they have done a lot of work going from that 70% of set 1 and 2 and no set 3 basically to 90% of all cards across 3 sets, meaning that they've only got presumably some of the finishing touches, maybe for another week or 2. At least that's my hope. Because one of the big things about Karabast is this huge update is hopefully going to be the baseline for Star Wars Unlimited, because one of the big problems that a lot of people point out is, yeah, Karabast is fine, but it doesn't actually work with some cards. For example, when I was playing the Mace Red deck the other day, the unlimited power wasn't actually implemented correctly and really kind of messed up a few of my games. And so I had to actually go ahead and restart, because when I was testing it before I even started recording for the video, which we didn't actually see too many bugs for that, but it did end up kind of changing my perspective on Mace Red. And so that's pretty important. But with that done, I can definitely see a huge excitement for Karabast. On top of that, they've also mentioned that they're moving forward with just Google and Discord logins. Personally, as someone that has many logins, as well as many YouTube channels, as well as a lot of other things I need to remember, I am very okay with this. I do enjoy usually just logging in through my Google account or Discord logins. This also, as they say, has a little bit better of a ban enforcement, meaning that when you do get someone who has a Discord login or a Google login, they can attach it to potentially your actual Discord account, remove you from servers and things like that, basically enforcing a ban in a grander way. Especially when, for those of you that might be having some trouble on Karabast against some other players that aren't really looking to play in good faith, they'll leave the game in the first initial turns, or potentially just constantly restart their or undo the actions that you're making so that you can't really make any progress in the game. That does happen every once in a while. I would say like every 5% of my matches, as per usual with any online game. That basically happens around 5% of the time. And if you're playing League of Legends, it's like 75% of the time. But, we'll stay away from that for now. But this is extremely, extremely exciting news, because of set 4 actually not being too far away. It's also extremely exciting news because one of the big things that I spoke about 3 weeks ago was that I would really like to do something with a tournament. And I would like to do it with Karabast because it's free, it's online, it's easy to access, and I can set it up and not have to worry about any sort of physical or even tabletop logistics. And so I've been kind of waiting for a little bit of this update to potentially start setting up my own plans for a brand new tournament. And so stay tuned for that, because now this reignites a little bit of that excitement, and I will be giving you all an update. But that isn't quite all. The other thing that I want to mention is, well, a little bit of update from the new tournaments from January 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And this is, of course, is on the Star Wars Limited Competitive Hub. And in terms of the 4th and 5th, we have a bunch of, planetary qualifiers, as well as looks like SCG cons going on. And that's going to be an exciting time. I can't wait for kind of the overall overview from Sunday or even Monday, when we get to see the first initial results from planetary qualifiers. But in terms of a very competitive tournament that we haven't seen in a while, if we look back on tournament results from the competitive hub, we had the Take the Initiative, which, to be honest, doesn't really show a good representation of the meta, because oftentimes these are players that are specifically chosen or join in through people that are watching some content, which means that you have a little bit of a shift in meta because of that. And we see lots of like Sabine Greens, Palp Yellows, even a Dooku and new Palp that are showing up, which is very, very rare, right? Instead, we haven't really gotten a ton of tournaments. We had a couple here and there, like a win a case. We had a little bit of a showdown here, a little bit of a showdown there, all kind of in the late month of December. But we didn't really get to see bigger tournaments like the SCG Con 1K that we are seeing today since, well, basically ever, because we haven't had actual real competitive tournaments from Star Wars Unlimited for set 3 since the planetary qualifiers haven't been active. Here we're getting to see a little bit of potentially what the planetary qualifier meta will look like, as these are in preparation or in conjunction with the planetary qualifier meta. So here we've got, well, looks like even a KTOD player coming in as one of the top 8 finishers. But we got Han Yellow, Anakin Blue, Django Red, Double Sabine Green, Quinlan Red, Rey Red, and Palpatine Blue. That is OG Palpatine. All of these are pretty standard. I mentioned basically all of these in my video the other day. Literally Sabine, Django, and Anakin and Han Yellow were all deck lists that I mentioned, but also Quinlan, Rey Red are a little bit derivative of various other versions. Quinlan Red is a little bit different, not necessarily specifically derivative of some of the other decks. Rey Blue, or Rey Red rather, is basically Anakin Blue, but a different shell, because you have Rey instead of Anakin, and a few different cards because Anakin works well with some and Rey works better with others. Palpatine Blue, little bit of a different deck. This is one of those where is in the top 8, but I wouldn't expect it to be in the top 8 super frequently. Quinlan Red is the one that has the Hans, has the kind of standard Tarkin Town early game pressure with those early plays that are going to apply damage and gets control, and then outvalues you, or rather I should say out-tempos you, because of the great ambushers and great curve that you can apply with Quinlan, and then getting Quinlan down with force throws, or even like, well, in some cases you can get some upgrades on him. Most of the time not. It's mostly just you get to play things like Plo Koon after you deploy Quinlan, and then deal 6 potentially 7 damage to a single thing, like one-shotting Django with a Plo Koon if you have 2 other units out, which is pretty awesome. So really interesting snapshot into the meta, and definitely within expectations. If you had told me this is a planetary qualifier, I wouldn't be too surprised. At the same time, I expect the planetary qualifier to be even more aggressive in terms of playing the most meta decks. But potentially Palpatine Blue is one that we should be on the lookout for. And same thing goes with Quinlan Red, as Quinlan was one that I mentioned, but Palpatine was not on that list. Because I don't find Palpatine to be as strong as a lot of these lists that we talked about, like Han Yellow, Anakin Blue, Django Red, Sabine Green, heck, even Bosk Blue, or some of the villainy vigilance control decks that we have out there, like Kira Green. Palpatine Blue is a little bit like that, just a little bit more late game centered, but I think that's a little bit risky when you're going against all the other ones that we have in the meta right now. So we will have to see. But definitely worth the watch. It's still going on right now, I believe, on Blonde Sabine's channel, it looks like. So I'll leave a link to the competitive hub down below so you can check this out and check out the SCG Con live, as it's still going on. It's still going on, and I don't think they have finished off the top 8, although the last time I checked it, we were watching, I don't want to spoil, but I think it was Frank Myers against the Tyler, oh my gosh, I can't even see the name right there. Tyler Mersing, Django Red. Who knows if the rest of the matches have been played out, or we're moving into, well, semifinals and then finals. Definitely give it a shot, though, if you are interested in keeping up with some competitive Star Wars Unlimited. This is about as competitive as it gets right now. Cons, PQs, and, well, that's going to be what it's going to be like for at least a couple of weeks. So I'm pretty excited about that. And again, I will be giving you all updates as we go along. But that's all I have for you all today. Stay on the lookout for Karabast. I will be giving an update when we play on the brand new client. And I also will be announcing a little bit more of what I got set in motion for the tournament and related to the online community tournament for Karabast, because I'm kind of just waiting for them to finish up whatever they need to implement before I want to go ahead and officially kind of start that. Although I might just get started on it because I'm excited about it regardless. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hopefully you enjoy the video, and hopefully you'll enjoy some competitive Star Wars Unlimited this weekend, and I'll see you all for the next one.